Hey guys, welcome back to some more reviews, and welcome back to the Friday the 13th reviews, and today we're getting to Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Just to give you guys a heads up, in a Jason franchise, if there's a final chapter, it's kind of just it's not real. It's not really the final chapter. There was, what, 3 movies that were supposedly ending it off? There were, like, at least 3 that come to mind. But Part 4 came out in 1984, gets a 6.0 on IMDb, written by Joseph Zito. This is a director that gets a lot of praise, and I can see, why. I mean, he's made some really good movies. Most of them I haven't seen yet, but they all get great. I actually did see a couple of them, but even the ones I didn't see, they get, like, really good mentions. Like, he made Blood Rage, which I heard a lot of great things about. He made The Prowler, which I seen that, and I really liked The Prowler. I think that's an underrated movie. He made Missing in Action. He made Invasion USA, Red Scorpion, Delta Force 1, Power Play, Abduction. So he made some... I mean, The Prowler I seen, I actually think The Prowler is a decent slasher. Granted, the characters are, like, not even good in the movie. The characters suck, but I think that's a decent slasher movie, The Prowler, which did a review on that a long time ago, but Prowler's decent. But this is easily probably out of all the movies I've seen so far, this is probably my, out of this and The Prowler, this is probably my favorite one, the final chapter. Now, this movie, in the beginning, it was kind of like a roller coaster ride with this movie. My thoughts on this film went up and down, up and down. When I first seen Part 4, I loved it like everybody else. But then there was a point in my life where I didn't like Part 4, and Part 6 was just okay to me. Or, not to say I didn't like Part 4, but they weren't, this and Part 6 weren't, at one point in my life, they weren't up there on the list for me. I didn't hate them, but I went to this whole Part 5 fanboy thing where I was, like, jealous of Part 4 and 6 because they get all this praise, and Part 5 all this hate. But, if I'm really watching these movies again, I honestly think Part 4 is easily one of the best ones in the series. Definitely one of my favorites. And it's a fan favorite as well. A lot of people love Part 4. I love everything about it. From the poster, from the direction, from the way it's shot. Still has that awesome atmosphere of the... Not really a camp, but it still has a good atmosphere of the forest and the uses of the dark forest at night and stuff like that is very well done. You have a lot of nudity in this movie. You have some fun teen characters. You got some early actors in their early acting roles in this movie. You got Crispin Glover, who plays Jimmy in this movie. You have Corey Feldman playing Tommy Jarvis, and this is one of Corey Feldman's first roles. This and The Goonies. And actually, The Goonies is a big reason why we don't see Corey Feldman in Part 5. I mean, we see him in the opening, but he was meant to be in the entire film. So, yeah. You have Corey Feldman. You have this guy named Ted, which is a really fun character. He's kind of the friend to Jimmy. Him and Ted kind of have this fun dialogue, which we'll get into. And you have the rest of the teams, pretty generic, but also they're pretty fun. Like, you have these really hot twins and some hot chicks, typical hot chicks. You have a great lead as well, in my opinion. Kimberly Beck playing Trish. I actually really enjoyed her in this movie. She's a great lead. She's strong. Her acting is very good. Her scream is well done. She's hot. She's fights back against Jason. She does awesome in this movie. And so that was really well done. I mean, you have some great death scenes. Pretty much pick right up to Part 3. You see the crime scene of Part 3, which is a pretty cool thing because in later Friday the 13th movies, you don't see a lot of going back to the previous movie. It's really the first 5 are the only ones that do that. And even Part 5 didn't go back to Part 4 at all. It just showed the dream in the opening. But I like how Part 2 continues after Part 1, then Part 3. You have Jason from Part 2 pulling the machete out of his shoulder. Or it's like already out of his shoulder, but he crawls away from this bloody machete. And this one opens up after Part 3. And they find Jason's body, they take him to the morgue, and when he's in there, he comes back to life, of course, and he starts killing people in there, goes back to Crystal Lake. You have these teens going out to this house that's out there. So it's not really a camp in this movie. It's more of just a regular. There's the lead's house, and then there's the teenager's house. And the teenager's are gonna go there for like a weekend party, and basically, Jason goes back there and starts murdering people again. Very basic plot, very simple to the point. And this movie, I thought the reason why it's easily one of the best ones is because you have Tom Savini coming back to do special effects. Tom Savini would only do part 1 and this movie because at the time it was supposed to be the last one. This was supposed to be the final one. Paramount was not a big fan of this franchise, and they still aren't. They still don't very... Their documentary they released was bad. Or was it... I don't think it was Paramount. I think it might have been New Line that released the documentary. Or it might have been both of them. But the one the studios actually made was pretty bad, called His Name Was Jason. Now, the better one is Crystal Lake Memories, which is like a, 8-hour long, 6-hour long documentary about Friday the 13th, whereas His Name Was Jason was like an hour and a half. So that was pretty cool that, I don't think that was made by the studio. I think that was like an independent production or something like that. Or maybe it was, I just didn't know that. But Paramount, when it comes to DVD releases, when it comes to uncut versions, like, there is obviously reasons why we can't get a Part 7 uncut version because that is just so rough. But there are some movies that are pretty cut down that you could get more gore in, but they still didn't do it. They did it for Part 1, but like other movies that have the gore cut down, you really can't get that back. So Paramount was like, alright, we're going to make one more. This really isn't our thing, so we're going to keep on doing other projects. We want to end Friday the 13th. So, false advertising, but it was meant to be the last one. And with this being the last one, like, if it was going to be the last one, it would have really, went out on a great note. I mean, think about it. All 4 movies would have been fantastic. But I'm glad we got more movies. I love Part 5. I love Part 6. Part 7 is okay. Part 9 is pretty good in my opinion. Underrated as hell. Jason X is what it is. I'll get to that. Freddy vs. Jason, I love that movie. I think it's a great movie. The remake I love. So I'm glad that we got more sequels, man, because you got my favorite one after this one. And you have just some great gore effects in this. Like I said, Tom Savini coming back. You have some awesome, like, some of the best death scenes come from this movie. This and Part 5, and what would have been Part 7 if it was uncut, but Part 7 was just raped by the MPAA. But yeah, you have some great death scenes. And you also just have some great scenes in general. Like the computer scene where Jimmy and his friend Ted is talking about, the computer don't lie. There's no computer. Aha! There is no Betty either. It's just a great dialogue. Crispin Glover's dance is just like, when I was watching that, because I watched Part 4 with a bunch of friends, on Friday the 13th this year, and we was just all laughing at that, having fun with the characters. So Crispin Glover in this movie does a great job. Kimberly Beck, she's a very nice person, her and her brother are really close, and you even have that moment where Tommy looks to the house, and also, I forgot to mention this, Corey Feldman in this movie is fantastic as Tommy Jarvis, does a great job, where Tommy looks and he sees a girl getting undressed, but, the curtain's closed before he sees anything, and his reaction is hilarious. And there's this guy from, again, he's not from the previous movie, but his sister was in Part 2 and got murdered. And he comes into this movie, and he then tries to avenge his sister. And I think his name is Eric Anderson, playing Rob. And he did a great job. This is a good actor, great character, very interesting idea, because it has been done before. And I like how it's a different... it's no longer a summer camp. It's just these houses, and it makes it different. And you still have the lake. You still have the great night sequences. I also got to mention this, because this was also just one of the best parts of the movie was Jason. I mean, the way he looks, the way he acts, you know, I think his name was Ted White that played him. Did a fantastic job playing Jason in this movie. Um, Made him more fast, made him more just menacing and smart. And he even talked about how he went back and watched I think he said he watched part 1 and 2 first. And then he went back and watched part 3 and seen that Jason, those movies are kind of lumbering, they're not very fast. So he had the idea of basically, making Jason really, really fast and sprinting. Like, Jason in this movie doesn't play around. I think his name was Ted, but for some reason he's not popping up here in the credits. I don't know why they're not putting him in the credits. But I think his name is Ted White that played Jason in this movie. Yeah, Ted White. Great actor, great guy. Seen some interviews. Seems like a really cool person. Yeah, he did a great job playing Jason in this movie. Very fast. I like the way the mask looks, that classic look. I just think it's a classic look where it's the slash mark and the blood and the fading and the weathering of the mask. Like in this movie, when I think of that classic look for Jason, human Jason at least, it's from part 4. Most would say part 3, and part 3 is a fantastic look as well. I don't think there's ever been a bad look for Jason in pretty much all the movies, except for Freddy vs. Jason. That look wasn't very good, and I even like Jason X the way he looks in that movie. I even like Part 9's look. But, I would say that Freddy vs. Jason's Frankenstein look I really didn't like. But, yeah, when I think of a human Jason, like typical human Jason, this movie really comes to mind. The axe mark and the blood. Jason being very fast in the film, like I said, runs a lot. And you got some great death scenes, man. I mean, you got a nurse being held against the wall and getting dug with scissors. She gets gutted. A girl gets tossed out of a window. Even a dog gets tossed out of a window. And Jason breaks through a shower and crunches this guy's face to the wall. Where's the corkscrew? Bam, right in the hand. The corkscrew right in the hand. Meat cleaver, boom, right to the face. The Ted character gets a kitchen knife stabbed through a projector right in the back of his head, and you see it drag down. Very creative. A girl gets kind of impaled through a boat. Kind of another one of those callbacks to the first movie where a girl gets impaled through something. This one, she gets impaled through a boat. A guy gets a spear gun jabbed right in the private area and then shot right up there. It's a painful death scene. You have a creepy kind of, eerie death scene because you don't see it. But Rob's death scene, where Jason grabs a little claw knife thing or whatever and starts beating on him, and you just hear Rob screaming, and it's so dark you can't see what's going on, but you can tell he's being killed. It's very well done. I thought it had great nudity, great special effects, great music. The third act was awesome once again. Jason, throwing bodies through windows and busting through the door, full on busting to the door, and throws a hammer, boom, right here. He gets a TV put on his head. Kimberly Beck chops his mask off, and you have that awesome look that to me also the typical kind of Jason, that's to me the Jason, human Jason, deformed face look to me is in this movie. It just looks creepy as that weird smile going on, that weird half smile. And of course, Corey Feldman, just old Jason, kid Jason, shaves his head and basically distracts him. And Jason gets hit right here in the head with the machete by Corey Feldman and gets chopped to pieces. And then the end of the movie, you have Corey Feldman kind of looking like maybe he's going to be the next killer. Of course, in this series, that would never happen. And in my opinion, I really didn't want that. I know some fans are yeah, we wanted to see him as the killer. I'm it works better with him being kind of the sole survivor of the series, at least the original series. You think about it, Tommy Jarvis and the girl from part 5, 6... 3, but she's crazy, and part 2, those are really the only people that have survived. But Tommy has been in 3 movies, so his character, sticks out, a lot because he's been a major part of the storyline 3 movies is a lot of movies. And I know people were wanting to see Tommy as the killer. I didn't want to see that. Just to me, I know it's like, but you're okay with part 5's ending? I'm like, yeah, well, at least I thought it was Jason. Then I would know it's Tommy running around in the hockey mask. Like, you know, and it just wouldn't work for me. Like, what, is it going to be faster? Is it going to be slower? Is it going to be talking behind the hockey mask? Just me in part 5 having fake Jason was as far as you could go with that. Having Tommy or one of these other leads from this series being a killer is a little much of a stretch for me. But yeah, you got some great death scenes, great ending. Easily one of the best Friday the 13th movies of all time, man. I love part 4 to death. Great, great stuff. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Friday the 13th part 4 of the final chapter. And I'll see you guys later on for my review on The New Beginning. Because with every final chapter, there becomes a new beginning. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching the review. Hope you guys enjoyed. And the Explorer of Horror is out. I'll see you guys in A New Beginning. Bye, y'all.